Rockets are cool.
Well,
You know, I recently looked at this one project when NASA was planning on bringing people to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
About I think it was called Orion.
Orion. Okay.
Orion.
Yeah. Okay.
You know it.
I've heard of it.
You know what that? You know how what their propulsion was?
No, probably nuclear, right?
Blow up nukes behind you to
Of
accelerate
course, yeah,
yourself.
that sounds very Kerbal Space Program actually.
2 to 3 nuclear explosions per second was what they estimated.
What,
And-
12 megaton explosions?
No, like small bombs, like I don't know. The bomb might be the size of a bag.
And well, I mean, Little Boy was about the size of a bag, and that took out most of Hiroshima.
Okay, yeah.
And Nagasaki.
But the whole idea behind it is the bigger your space rocket, the more impact of a bomb it would absorb.
When was this?
Which means the faster it will accelerate. So because with nowadays like modern rocket science,
Mm-hmm.
the smaller your the bigger the payload, the bigger your rocket has to be, obviously.
Yeah.
And you want to get a small rocket,
So you need
and
small,
like a
small
light
amount of
rocket,
fuel.
so that because your payload is only 2% of your weight, or something like crazy like that.
Really? How would they do that?
Like
with nuclear?
And with nuclear, the whole idea is nuclear bombs blowing up behind you, is the bigger the rocket, the more of an explosion it can absorb.
Oh.
Which means the bigger the rocket is, the further it actually flies.
So you can have a set amount of nuclear material you want to explode, and it doesn't actually matter how big the rocket is.
No, it does matter.
Well, it's more effective the larger it is.
Yes.
Okay,
So if you've got a small rocket, if you've got a lighter rocket, which is then smaller, it would fly less far as a bigger, heavier rocket.
That actually makes no sense.
It doesn't make any
sense. It doesn't make any sense, but it's awesome.
But it makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah. It's like those weird people who wanted to sail using the sun.
No, actually, that works. You just
It does work. It's just it takes a while
Yeah.
to accelerate.
And
First 10 years, nothing happens.
the problem they faced with it was, I mean, they had funding. They had back then $1 million.
When was this? Approximately.
1960-ish.
Okay, so
So-
before the actual moon landings.
Yeah, before the moon landing.
Before they decided it wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, so one of the problems they had, they got $1 million. Back then it was more.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot more. Like 10 times that.
yeah, okay. I'm not sure about 10 times. But anyway.
No, it is about 10 times.
Anyway, they had that much money to make up a plan. And one of the points why they failed was they weren't quite sure how to keep the astronauts alive. Because
of course.
if you've got
Well,
major problem was first of all, if you've got your rocket, nuclear bombs exploding beneath you 2 to 3 times a second, your ship will erupt quite 2 to 3 times a second.
yeah.
And that shock, they kind of had problems with people because people are fairly soft and mushy.
Yeah.
So
They've also tried, the United States government has also tried to make nuclear planes, and the only reason they couldn't do it is because they couldn't shield the crew.
oh yeah.
So, I mean, you just get cooked, while flying the plane.
Yeah, the same thing was also with cars and trains. They built a successful
Nuclear car?
Nuclear train.
Nuclear train.
Ford had a prototype nuclear car.
Yeah, I
Didn't
mean,
work
back
out.
in the 50s, they wanted to make everything nuclear. Everything from a sausage cooker to a car.
Yeah. So anyway, another problem they had with exploding nuclear bombs under a rocket to propel to make it fly was nuclear waste in the atmosphere.
Not a major problem at all.
And they've noticed the higher up it goes, if you explode a nuclear bomb in the stratosphere, problems. So
yeah. We do only have one planet at the moment, so that might be a small problem if we make the atmosphere completely radioactive.
And the reason they actually got funding in the first place was because the military saw this as a great idea to send nuclear bombs to other countries.
by accident.
So
by accident.
So they actually wanted to use this technology. So actually, the military started funding them more or less. So
it was actually the military, not NASA.
Well, NASA, the government.
Was the government, but it was military funding.
And the military had interest in it, so that was the only reason they didn't scrap the idea, like, immediately when they found out that they wanted to blow freaking nukes under rockets super powered. Was the military looked at it and said, hey, nukes are awesome. Let's use this to... let's militarize this.
Nukes are awesome.
Yeah, sure, why not? And that's it. So then whatchamacallit, who was the president who said I want to go to the moon?
I think it was Kennedy.
Yeah, so he then signed a something like government thing,
John F. Kennedy,
to forbid nuclear explosions in the stratosphere, or
in the atmospheric nuclear tests.
Yeah, atmospheric nuclear tests, which kind of made the whole idea of having nukes propose your rocket not very
viable.
Legal.
Yeah, legal or viable.
Yeah, I mean viable. It's a great idea if you think about it. You can have a huge rocket, like a huge payload, bring it to atmosphere. It's amazing, but
so they just detonate. So they detonate. Okay, so you bring it, let's say, up to 10,000 meters, right? And then you just detonate a bomb below you. You ride the shockwave.
No,
detonate another bomb.
You detonate it from
launch. So
launch.
you ride a nuclear shockwave from launch.
Yes, and
okay, that's great.
And they would not be able to have this on a launch pad because nuclear bombs.
No.
Nuclear bombs and launch pads don't really
mix very well.
So they wanted to launch it in the ocean, which by itself...
Great for all the fishies.
By itself made sense. I mean, they had multiple ideas, like when they did the moon landing and decided to have a liquid fuel as a propulsion. They had this one rocket which was way bigger, like almost, I think it was maybe even twice the size of a Saturn V. And because it would have been so huge...
Was this before they added liquid oxygen?
I don't know. Anyway, so this was just, they never actually built it, not even a prototype, but they wanted to launch this rocket in the ocean because, I mean, it has to be airtight anyway, so...
Why not make it watertight?
Well, if it's airtight, it's watertight already.
Yeah.
So, advantage of that is, well, you can literally have your rocket in the ocean and you don't really need a launch pad, which is cool.
So it just sits there in the ocean chilling before it gets a nuclear explosion below it.
Yes.
Which launches it and totally doesn't create a tsunami while you're at it.
Yeah, that was also a problem, fish, nuclear... Yeah, the main reason was actually, like, astronauts dying and the nuclear fallout.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you did it in the Pacific, I mean, a lot of the fish for most of the world comes from the Pacific.
I mean, if you think about it, we've got, I think, 3 nuclear submarines on the ocean floor at the moment.
Yeah,
true. The Russians lost, so...
I mean, over time, I think about 4 nuclear bombs have just kind of disappeared off the register.
It was more.
Is it more than that?
Yeah.
It might be 20, actually.
I think
it's 20.
Yeah,
I think it's 20. And that's actually quite scary. They just don't know where it is. I mean, I can't remember which town it was, but there was a town somewhere in the United States where they accidentally dropped a plane crashed, right? And a warhead...
No, crashed in the ocean. It was the East Coast, if I remember correctly.
No, I'm thinking of a different incident. So what happened is the plane crashed, right, in the town, and the nuclear warhead luckily didn't detonate. But they only found the, like, half of the bomb. So they found the not the main part of the bomb, but the kind of the secondary part. So the actual primary part is still missing somewhere in that town. They don't know where it is.
Yeah, normally they don't have just one nuclear bomb carrying on a plane, but they've got like multiple, like maybe 3. Yeah. So, I mean, the one story I heard about was they found 2 out of 3 or something like that. I mean, hey.
Yeah, there's a success rate of 66%. I mean...
67.
Well, it depends how you want to round it there. 66.6. 6, and so on.
Yeah. And how long is this podcast actually going to be?
We don't know that yet.
Okay.
I think we've got about 10 minutes or so far. Let me check. Yeah, about 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think at this point we can start thinking about a name. Nuclear would be fitting. So far, nuclear would be fitting, but
yeah,
this isn't meant to normally, as far as we know, meant to be a sciencey show, or kind of partially sciencey, but not the nuclear show.
I like science.
Yeah, I think
rocket science is cool.
Yeah, I mean, we just burnt some copper thermite, so.
Well, you burnt is not really the right word.
we ignited copper thermite.
Yeah.
With a flare.
Industrial grade sparkles.
Well, sparkles.
Are we allowed? I mean,
are we actually allowed to talk about this?
I mean, I don't know if we're gonna cut this out or not later on, if we'd ever publish this, but I don't know if I'm legally like if I should say this, but we got this stuff from the chemistry lab, so
yeah, a chemistry lab, unspecified.
I'm not quite sure if I want this to be in the final.
Well, it can be. We just don't have to specify where we got it from. Just say a chemistry lab.
Yeah, we just
from a chemistry lab.
I think we should just beep out if we say from where we got it. If we say
yeah,
like
we'll
we got it from
it
a beep lab, chemistry lab,
a chemistry lab.
Yeah,
a certain chemistry lab
in school.
No, not at school. That would be cruel. That would be cruel. But from a certain chemistry lab.
In school.
No. Moving on swiftly. Yeah.
What do you think about? Okay, we've already got. Oh, talking about rockets. Like, let's move on to space.
Move on to space in general. SpaceX.
So, what do you think about the ISS?
I think it's old and needs to be replaced. I mean, it isn't. I think it's scheduled to just fall into the atmosphere in about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think it's best.
2020.
Best before date is 2024.
It's sell by date.
Yeah.
Before it's sold to the atmosphere to burn up.
No, Jenny, what do you think about the ISS? Because if I think about it, I've got mixed feelings about it.
I mean, the original one, the Mir space station, was the predecessor of the ISS.
Yeah. And,
I mean, that was just joint Russian and United States. But, I mean, the ISS has got pretty much parts from every country imaginable that has a space agency, even probably even our local space agency from South Africa.
I think
usually just send weather
astronauts.
balloons. Yeah, weather balloons. I think we've probably had 2 or 3 astronauts in our time.
Yeah, that have actually been sent to space.
Yeah, the others have just been kind of sitting in a room and drinking coffee and thinking about being in space.
No, because, I mean, mixed feelings as in, like, first of all, if you think about it, we were at the moon. Like,
we were on the moon, yeah.
We were on the moon, like...
Well, it depends who you ask, obviously.
1969.
Yeah, and since then it's gone down, really.
And if you look at it, the moon is... How far away is the moon from the Earth?
27,000 kilometers?
No, I don't... That does not sound...
It's... No, it's several million kilometers, isn't it?
No, I think, if I remember correctly, it's 400,000. Can we actually search?
Actually, let's Google this. Anyway, you can talk while I Google.
So, anyway, the ISS is orbiting at 400 kilometers from the Earth, and I mean it's kind of like we were on the moon, and now we've been put back to low Earth orbit, which kind of sucks.
384,400 kilometers from Earth.
Okay, so
you were close.
So let's just keep it at 400,000.
Yeah, that's approximately 400,000 kilometers.
Because I mean it's not a perfect ellipse.
True. Yeah. Did you know that there's a
wait.
lunar eclipse soon?
Oh, yeah, but no, just why? Wait, I also want to talk about the ISS.
Sure.
So, negative thing is like we're like low Earth orbit, but the positive thing about it is we've got so many nations like combined to work on the ISS, and like
yeah.
And something like this has never really been done before in such a large scale.
where so many nations work together to achieve
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I mean, other than like aid projects in Africa and so on.
Yeah,
but scientifically, yes. Usually, most nations keep their work to themselves.
And especially like something like space. I mean, the Russians had, I think, the first space station with whatchamacallit, what's the Russians' rockets called? Soyuz 1 was the first one. I think that...
Space station.
Yeah.
No, the first space station was the United States Skylab.
No, it was the Soyuz 1.
Okay.
Google.
Alright. Maybe we should check our facts before
Yeah.
we do this in future. But anyway, please excuse us. We'll put together better show notes next
I
time.
now know your password for your iPad.
Oh, well done.
It's his birthday.
Wow. Thank you. Couldn't anyone have thought of that?
So now we just have to figure out when his birthday is.
It was Salyut 1.
Salyut 1, yeah.
Yeah, Salyut 1. So, yeah, launched by the Russians, as Nicholas said.
Obviously,
Nicholas is the expert here.
Yeah, I think I need to...
I think we need to put together...
let's take all of our information with a huge grain of salt.
Yes, please do.
We do not fact check our facts at all.
Yet. We might do that in future.
That might be a good idea.
I think from now on we should put together proper topics and show notes that we want to talk about.
And which list with facts.
And make sure the facts are correct before we talk about anything. Yeah. But anyway, please excuse us and take everything
Space
we
shuttle.
say with a grain of salt. Yes, the space shuttle.
Space shuttle, I think, was one of the reasons why we went back to low Earth orbit because I mean the space shuttle cannot really go anywhere except for low Earth orbit. It's kind of sad, and Elon Musk said something similar to
SpaceX.
The only reason he thinks the space shuttle existed because it was designed in such a way that Congress would like it.
Of course. I feel like everything is designed that way.
Yeah, which is actually kind of sad, and I think the privatization of
space travel
is really good, but I think we should talk about that either later in the show or on another episode.
Yeah. I think we should talk about it now because this is going to become the space episode.
Okay, but let's talk about the space shuttle.
So basically, the problem with the space shuttle, in my opinion, is even though it's reusable, a lot of it is not reusable.
Yeah.
If you compare it to SpaceX's concepts for reusability, it's basically complete and utter rubbish. Because, I mean, the boosters aren't reused.
No, they kind of are. I mean, they've got parachutes. They crash into the ocean.
Yes, but they can't be reused immediately.
Yeah.
They have to be serviced and everything, where the SpaceX rockets can almost be reused the next day.
Yeah, they're planning for a 24-hour
turnover period, yeah. Especially for the Heart of Gold and the Mars trips.
Yeah, although I think that's... The Heart of Gold, I don't know if anybody of you has heard of that before, but it's basically Elon Musk wanting to go to Mars with a reusable rocket.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's still going to take quite some time and quite some, redesigning, because I think the way it's...
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Elon Musk says that it should be done, or they should have something to show and to fly with in the next 7 years.
Well,
yeah, I think they will be doing Dragon capsule tests before then, which is SpaceX's manned capsules. So far, they've only been doing autonomous payload launches.
Yeah, the problem with SpaceX is, generally, most of Elon Musk's project is, he doesn't really stick to the schedule at all. I mean,
he does whatever he feels like.
If you think about the Falcon 9,
yeah,
bigger brother of Falcon 9 is the Falcon Heavy,
mm-hmm.
which is basically 2 additional first stage boosters strapped to a normal Falcon 1.
Mm-hmm.
And
it looks, on paper, it sounds utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it was scheduled to launch in 2014.
Was it 2015? I'll check.
Originally,
when he talking.
Originally, when he came up with the idea, or first published the idea, And so okay, I lost my train of thought. So now we're like in 2017, and now they're saying it's only going to be launching at end of 2017, maybe beginning of 2018.
Yeah, I feel like Elon Musk is always extremely ambitious, but sometimes it's just not possible to do things in the time frames that he wants. Here, first flight to November 2017 planned.
But like, when did he...
But the original flight, we can look that up here. I think he was around 2014 or 2015 was their original like SpaceX timeline. They wanted to do it around then. I mean, the space, okay, there you go. First planned launch. Okay, that was the Falcon 9. Okay, in 2008 they said the Falcon 9 would launch in 2009, and then the Falcon 9 Heavy would launch in a couple of years.
I would not say 9 years doesn't really sound like a couple of years to me.
No, I would say 9 years is more like almost 2 hands worth of years. So it depends on your hands. Well, you have to be PC here, but we can't even say standard human hands. That's also not PC. If you assume that a hand has 5 fingers.
Okay, here I've got this. Here in April 2011, Elon Musk was targeting the first launch of the Falcon 9 Heavy in 2013.
Yeah, so actually earlier than we thought.
And so now he's 4 years?
About 4 years later, yeah. It said May, so about 4 years later, and we don't have much progress.
Okay, we just got a pop-up saying, free version, recording limit, we can only record for 37 minutes.
Which is fine. I mean, we can record it in 2 bits and then
talk about
edit
space
them together. Yeah, I mean, this can just be space part 1.
Yeah.
And I don't know, now should it become the Space Podcast? But the Space Podcast is a horrible name. We need a good name. If anyone wants to tell us on Twitter a name for this podcast, which will not actually work, I just realized, because we'll need a name by the time this gets uploaded. But in future, any suggestions or tips or corrections, you can send us on Twitter. And our Twitter handles will be in the description.
I am not sure if you can actually change the name after publishing. Can you change the name?
You can change the name of the podcast, but the actual podcast, but you can't change the name of the actual episode.
Okay.
Unless you republish it.
Okay.
So you know how you can change the name of the YouTube video.
Yeah.
You can't change the contents of the YouTube video.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
Without republishing it. So yeah, same thing.
And just looked at the time.
We've already been recording for 24 minutes. I mean, half of this might be edited out for all we know, but it's been 24 minutes for us.
Looking at the time now, actually, because I'm here in the middle of nowhere visiting Thomas, and I kind of need to be heading back home again.
Yeah, for the reference of kind of so people have an understanding, I basically live in the middle of nowhere, and Nicholas lives in the city, so he came out with his brand new motorbike to come and visit me. Lucky man. Yeah.
I mean, I drove around in triangles trying to find this place.
Yeah, we were trying out it's not actually a new feature, but we were trying out in practice the share location.
On Google Maps.
Yeah. And it was quite funny, actually, because I was tracking him when he got here. Well, almost got here. And he drove around in circles and in triangles for about 20 minutes nearby before he actually finally arrived.
Yeah.
Someone does not have a great sense of direction.
Yeah, and the thing is, it takes like a good hour to go back.
Well, it depends if you're going to be cheap or not. It would take about 40 minutes if you went the short way, but it will cost you 30 rand toll.
Yeah.
For those listeners who live abroad, a rand is approximately €14.5 and approximately $13 and about £16. So
No, you mean
the other way around.
The other way around.
Sorry, a rand. €1 is approximately 14 rand. $1 is approximately 13 rand, and £1 is approximately 16 rand. Depending on when you listen to this might be in 2040 or so.
Yeah, the thing about is
exchange rates might have fluctuated greatly.
The thing with our currency is it drops can drop 10% within a week.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we record this in next week or so, it might have completely changed. If we record the next episode, that is.
So I think we should be aiming for a half an hour episode. So I'm going to be here for another
few minutes,
and trying to think about something we can talk about.
So basically, maybe we should talk a bit about the podcast and what this is going to be.
Okay, so what are we actually doing here?
Okay, so basically, I've always wanted to start a podcast. My name is Thomas Alexander, and I thought that my friend here, Nicholas Blair, would be the perfect co-host/host, because he's been doing most of the talking this episode, about topics that are close to his heart, space, which is fine. You can be called the space nerd.
Yeah.
And
thinking about it, doing our introduction at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that's probably not a logical thing. We might as well, maybe we can edit that to the beginning.
Yeah, or maybe not. I don't know.
Actually, maybe it will be better for the listeners to hear a bit first before we actually...
Yeah, or they're like, who the hell's this? I don't want to listen to this.
Click away. For any of the loyal people who have stayed so far, thank you very much for listening.
Honestly, I don't understand why.
Yes, we were very, very pleased but puzzled how you managed to listen for so long for us to talk about completely random topics almost that kind of just sprung into our head while speaking. And yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Okay, so as Thomas just said, I'm Nicholas Blair, and both of us are still scholars at the moment. We live at
an unspecified school.
We live in South Africa, to be precise,
Cape Town.
And...
well, I live in the countryside, but Nicholas lives in Cape Town.
I live in Cape Town. And, well... okay, I think that's about it.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much for listening.
If you listen to this episode, if you listen to this, you're most probably the first person to have ever listened to this, except for the two of us.
Yes, and possibly our friends.
And possibly the last as well.
Yes. We thank you greatly for hanging on so long. There may be future episodes. They may not be. Hopefully, there will be.
I don't want to go and beg for people to say please subscribe and thumbs up at the end of a video.
Well, I mean, because we do not have a domain at this point, you will probably be subscribing to us on YouTube, but that is possibly not the case. So if we do have a actual podcast feed by then, please subscribe if you feel like it.
Yeah, talking about that,
I do not recommend it yet, but please do. And on YouTube, please subscribe, comment, like, so on. I'm sorry to sound like a YouTuber, but anyway.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's really annoying if someone says, please like and subscribe to my videos.